Today's bike of the day is a 2004 Honda Rune. And according to journalists back in the day, it cost Honda about $100,000 to make each and every single one of these. They sold them for about a quarter of that. So let's take a minute to figure out what makes these so special.
Created in the very fires of imagination. A machine created to rule the earth and electrify the air.
So in the year 2000, Conan O'Brien reference, Honda comes up with a prototype called the T2 concept. Not Terminator 2, but a reference instead to what they were trying to do in the world of cruisers. This bike, as the T2 concept, had lots of incredible custom touches that harked back to, say, 1940s, 1950s bobbers, but also had a Honda spin on things. So you had a really well-engineered trailing link front arm. You even had a single-sided swing arm, Pro Link style, like they were putting on their MotoGP racers at the time. And when it came out, everyone thought what everyone does when a crazy concept bike comes out. Oh, that's pretty cool, but there's no way the production bike will be like that. Well, fast forward 4 years and the bike pretty much came out looking like the concept. That's part of the reason why it cost 100 grand for them to make these things, but it really was just a show-off piece in the way that Honda can do every once in a while, like with the NR750 or the RC213 VS. Obviously here at Iconic, we spend a little bit more time with the sport bikes, but when a bike like this comes through, we have to just share it with you because they're so fantastic. We actually just sold this on our auction site recently. It sold for $23,000 plus our 7% buyer's fee, and it's about to go home to a new gentleman in California, but he's a friend of ours and he said I could take it for a quick spin just to talk to you guys about it and show you a little bit about what it's like and what it sounds like. Some of the styling cues for this bike actually go back to 1995 when Honda released a prototype called the Zodia. That's Z-O-D-I-A. Eventually, it evolved into what you see here. Honda offered it in two colors. One was a kind of cherry purple, and then there's this one here, which was known either by Illusion Blue or Pearl Chromium Purple. We all call this the Honda Rune, but the official name was actually the Honda Valkyrie Rune because it was based on the Valkyrie Cruiser, which itself was a naked version of the Honda Goldwing. And when I say Goldwing, what you should be thinking is the Boxer 6-cylinder motor, kind of like what you get in a Subaru, right? 3 cylinders sticking either way, firing opposite from each other.
It's the biggest motorcycle engine on the planet. 6 cylinders, 6 carbs, 1,520 cc's. Only one custom motorcycle in the world can cruise like this. The Valkyrie from Honda.
I think the most obvious thing when you're looking at this is the visual style, whether it's the paint, whether it's the chrome, whether it's touches like what seems to be the world's longest headlight housing, which shares a bit of chrome and that paint. But what I think is very cool about it is the suspension. So up front, like I mentioned earlier, you've got that trailing link setup. But then again, in the back, you're seeing the swing arm side, but on my side is a single-sided swing arm on a cruiser. Not just any cruiser, a very massive cruiser. And they actually took that Pro Link suspension and derived it from the RC211V MotoGP bike, which is pretty impressive. So let's take it for a quick spin and see if that suspension holds up to things. Quick, I'll just fire it up. Oh, you know what? I think it's gonna have to be off the side stand for me to do that. So here we go. Nice and quiet. This bike is completely stock, which is one of the reasons that makes it special from a collector standpoint. It's already warmed up. It's got 7,540 miles, so still got plenty of life in it. You can kind of hear that exhaust noise when it's coming off the throttle. Doesn't sound like any other Honda I can recognize, but it's insanely smooth. As I'm doing that, spend a lot of time on BMW Boxer Twins and you give it a little bit of throttle, the whole thing wants to shake side to side. This thing, insanely stable. Let's check it out.
Well, as we get moving here, there's a couple of numbers that are worth sharing that come to mind pretty immediately. First is the weight. This thing weighs 888 pounds, ready to ride, which is a lot. It's also got a really long wheelbase, 69 inches, which is the longest of any production Honda ever built. And so those are two things that you pretty much feel all the time, the weight and the length. And it's one thing in terms of what you feel, it's another in terms of what you see. I mean, it's got mid controls, so it's kind of, in a way, it's very visually heavy forward of the knees. But yeah, I mean, that the end of the headlight is so far, I couldn't even reach that if I wanted to block the light. It's a very, very long bike, and you're just looking at a sea of chrome that's pointing the way ahead for you. Oh, that's such good torque though on a roll-on. Nothing's crazy urgent. It doesn't feel dramatic really. It's just a wall of torque that pushes you around. The motor's really, really smooth. Again, you see a cruiser bike like this or a custom bike like this and you'd assume that your feet would be way ahead of you with forward controls, but no, it's just you're a little hunched, but it's like you're on a regular mid-control bike. Also means as you pick up the pace a little bit, then you get a little bit of wind and your chest turns into a sail. But it's not too bad. It's also very wide for when you're trying to do lane splitting maneuvers like this. You've already got that Boxer motor with cylinders sticking out either way, and then on top of that, crash guards up front. It's also kind of fun to see the trailing link suspension in action, but I can't really show you that with my helmet cam, sorry about that. One other thing I notice as I'm operating this is that the controls all feel really nice. Like, it does feel like this is an expensive bike in terms of how controls snap back, how this, even this, it sounds ridiculous, with this turn signal button, it's just super plush. It feels good to push it, to cancel it. All these controls feel really well built. And even though it's, let's see, this is a 2004 model, so it's almost 20 years old, you know, it's got 7,500 miles on it. It's not like it's been completely babied. And I don't see any corrosion or any pitting or anything like that. They used good, really, it's really good finish on this thing. That bump was not so good. You can definitely feel that. Here you go. But no one's buying this bike for its compliance and over bumps and suspension travel. You kind of have to throw your weight into it to get it to go side to side. All right, here we go. Oh, by the way, it's got a great horn.
Well, that's something different than what we normally do here at Iconic. It is visually stunning, whether it's the laid-in dash, whether it's this color on the bodywork, as well as how they ghosted the logos on the bike. Even I love the turn signals, the way those get Frenched in. These even came with a book that matches the paint on the bike, and kind of we'll cut into this, but it explains a few things about this, you know, forged from the soul of a Valkyrie, because like I said earlier, it's a Honda Valkyrie Rune, a machine unlike anything you've ever seen or dared dream. And it's just, everything about this bike from a visual standpoint is absolutely incredible, and I can understand why someone would want to add this to their collection. I'm glad I got a chance to do this. Thanks to the owner for letting me take it for a spin. Hopefully you learned something with today's bike of the day. We'll see you on the next one.